Take a look at the produce aisle. People grab onions without thinking. Garlic almost always makes it into the basket. Even shallots have their fans. Then there's the leek. Most shoppers pause for a second, wonder what it is, and keep walking, which is surprising, because this forgotten vegetable has been feeding people for thousands of years. It appeared on Roman tables. It became part of Welsh national tradition. Today, it's one of the quiet stars of professional kitchens around the world. Not because it's expensive, not because it's rare, because it does something almost no other vegetable can. It makes everything around it taste better. And once you discover how it grows, why chefs refuse to cook without it, and why an entire country proudly celebrates it, you'll never look at a leek the same way again. If vegetables had family reunions, the onion family would be loud. Garlic would arrive first. Onions would make everybody cry. Chives would somehow end up decorating every plate. And standing quietly in the corner, it would be the leek. Most people think it's just a giant spring onion. It isn't. A leek belongs to the allium genus, the same botanical group as onions, garlic, shallots, and chives. They're relatives, but this one grew up differently. Instead of storing its energy inside a large, underground bulb, it keeps building upward. One leaf appears, then another wraps around it, then another, month after month, until dozens of tightly packed leaves form the thick white shaft we recognize in the supermarket. It doesn't look unusual until you see how it's actually made. And that's where this story becomes much more interesting. Cut a leek in half. At first, it looks almost ordinary. Then you notice the layers. Another, and another, and another. It almost looks like someone rolled dozens of green sheets of paper together. That's surprisingly close to what's happening. A leek doesn't build itself from the outside in. Every new leaf grows from the center. As it grows, it wraps around every leaf that came before it. The process repeats for months. Nature keeps rolling. The leek keeps growing. Now watch what the farmer does next. Instead of leaving the plant exposed, they gradually pull soil up around the lower part of the leek. Not to protect it, to hide it. Without sunlight, the buried leaf bases produce very little chlorophyll. That's why the lower section stays creamy white instead of turning green. Gardeners call this blanching. Without it, the mild, tender leek found in grocery stores would taste noticeably stronger and look completely different. One simple farming technique completely changes the vegetable, and it also explains why leeks taste nothing like onions. Here's a challenge. Close your eyes. Imagine someone slicing an onion. You can almost feel your eyes watering. Now imagine garlic hitting the cutting board. You can practically smell it. Now picture someone slicing a leek. Almost nothing happens. Same botanical group. Completely different personality. Leeks contain many of the same kinds of natural sulfur compounds found in other alliums, but in a balance that usually creates a much gentler flavor. Then comes the real transformation. Heat, butter, time. The firm layers slowly relax. Natural sugars begin to develop. The sharp edge fades away. What's left is soft, sweet, almost silky. That's exactly why chefs reach for leeks. Not because they overpower a dish, because they connect a dish. A creamy potato soup suddenly feels richer. A risotto becomes rounder. A roast chicken tastes deeper without anyone noticing why. The leek rarely steals the spotlight. It quietly improves everything standing next to it. And people have been discovering that for a very long time. Long before cooking shows, before recipe books, before restaurants. People were already growing leeks. Archaeological and historical evidence shows they were cultivated in the ancient Mediterranean for thousands of years. The ancient Egyptians knew them. The Greeks cooked with them. The Romans valued them enough that their cultivation spread across much of Europe as Roman influence expanded. One emperor even became closely associated with the vegetable. Ancient writers claim Nero regularly ate leeks because he believed they helped his singing voice. Whether they actually improved his voice, no one can say. But the story survived. The vegetable survived too. Long after the Roman Empire disappeared, Leeks remained in village gardens, then monastery kitchens, then royal kitchens. Today, they appear everywhere from family soups to Michelin-starred restaurants. Not much has changed. The leek is still doing exactly what it has always done, quietly making good food even better. But one country would eventually turn this humble vegetable into something far bigger than dinner. Picture yourself at a Roman banquet. Silver plates, fresh bread, olives, wine, and sitting among them, a bundle of leeks. According to ancient Roman writers, Emperor Nero became so closely associated with leeks that he earned the nickname Porphyragus, meaning leek eater. Why? Because he believed they helped keep his singing voice in good condition. Modern science doesn't support the idea that leeks can magically improve someone's voice. But the story tells us something else. Leeks were already valuable enough to be noticed by one of history's most famous emperors. As Roman influence spread across Europe, leek cultivation spread with it. Generations passed. Empires disappeared. Borders changed. The leek stayed exactly where people needed it, in gardens, in markets, on dinner tables. Sometimes history survives in books. Sometimes it survives in recipes. And one recipe eventually became part of an entire nation's identity. Imagine landing in another country, walking into a packed sports stadium, and discovering thousands of people wearing giant leeks on their heads. It sounds made up. It's completely real. The leek has been one of Wales's national symbols for centuries. According to Welsh tradition, soldiers once wore leeks during a battle so they could recognize each other. Historians can't confirm every detail of that story, but they do know the tradition has endured for generations. Today, leeks appear during St. David's Day celebrations, military ceremonies, and rugby matches across Wales. That's remarkable, because very few vegetables become national symbols. Food usually fills our stomachs. Sometimes, it also shapes identity. A simple plant becomes a memory becomes a tradition, and before long, millions of people are proudly celebrating something that started in a garden. The funny part? Most people still don't know how to cook one properly. A leek can fool you. From the outside, it looks perfectly clean. Inside, that's a different story. As the leaves grow tightly around each other, they can trap fine soil between the layers. That's why professional chefs almost always slice a leek first, then wash it. Not the other way around. The second mistake happens before cooking even begins. People throw away half the plant. The white part is wonderfully tender. The light green section adds even more flavor. Even the darker leaves can help build a rich vegetable or chicken stock before being removed. Almost the entire plant has a purpose. Then comes mistake number 3. Turning up the heat. Leeks reward patience. Cook them gently. Give them time. Watch them slowly become soft, glossy, and naturally sweet. There's no dramatic moment, no loud sizzle. Just a quiet transformation. It's almost the opposite of fast food, and maybe that's exactly why chefs love them so much. But once you leave Europe, the story changes again. Travel across the world, and the same vegetable tells completely different stories. In France, it melts into silky potato and leek soup. In Scotland, it helps create cock-a-leekie soup, a comforting dish that has been served for generations. In Belgium, it's baked into rich gratins. Across parts of Spain, long onions known as calçots steal the spotlight each spring, while leeks also find their way into grills and stews. In Turkey, they're gently braised with olive oil until almost buttery. Across East Asia, their mild flavor works beautifully in stir-fries, dumpling fillings, and noodle dishes. The techniques change, the spices change, the traditions change. The leek quietly adapts to every one of them. That's its real superpower. It doesn't demand attention, it earns its place. One kitchen at a time, one family at a time, one generation after another. And after thousands of years, it's still waiting patiently in the supermarket. Exactly where we started. The loudest ingredients usually become famous. The hottest peppers, the strongest garlic, the rarest truffles. Leeks never tried to win that competition. They chose a different path. For thousands of years, they've quietly helped good cooks become even better. Not by overpowering a meal, by bringing everything together. Maybe that's why they're so easy to overlook. The best ingredients aren't always the ones shouting for attention. Sometimes they're standing quietly on the bottom shelf, waiting for someone curious enough to pick them up. The next time you pass a bundle of leeks, you won't just see another vegetable. You'll see centuries of farming, Roman history, Welsh tradition, countless family recipes, and one of the most underrated ingredients in the kitchen. Because the best food stories aren't always the loudest. Sometimes they're simply waiting to be discovered.